Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome to Houston Oasis. My name is Alexis Pottman, and we're really excited to have you here with us today. I also want to give a special welcome to those joining us from the North San Diego Oasis launch team. Yay! We're glad you're here with us today. All right. I like to start off every meeting with stating a couple of our core values. Reality is known through reason, and people are more important than beliefs. We've got a great program for you today. First, we'll have a couple songs. Our main talk today will be given by Biddle. After our main talk, we'll break out into discussion groups and have some Q&A, and then have one more song. Our musician today is John Taylor. Taylor works as at an elementary school and pre-corona frequented the open mic nights in Houston and Austin by night. So please welcome to the screen, John Taylor.
Hi, thank you. I'll try my best to imagine you clapping. Yep, like she said, that's my name. I've been pretty busy at school all week, but I'm glad I was able to take this time to come see you guys. Yeah, I actually was attending a little bit. I've kind of been going back and forth between Houston Oasis and the Zoom meetings for my church back home in Kansas. So yeah, nice to be back. This is a good way to be back. This is a song I wrote in April. No, maybe February. This was like pre-pandemic, but not really pre-pandemic. And I call it "I Love You, City Slicker." I love you, City Slicker, you're so swell. But we sure are losing far as I can tell. Till the good folks losing that, I wish them well. The old folks saying that you're just too sad, and the old folks asking that you're always mad. Well, we'll tell you now, you know it ain't so bad. But I'll tell you now, you know they wish they had. Oh, the old folks, they're saying that you're just too sad. And the old folks asking why you're always mad. Well, they'll tell you now, you know it ain't so bad. But I'll tell you now, you know they wish they had. Oh, let's go dancing on your Stanford bill. Long as you twist, honey, you can drink your fill. Long as you ask me, honey, oh, you know I will. Oh, let's go dancing on your Stanford bill. Long as you twist, honey, you can drink your fill. Long as you ask me, honey, oh, you know I will. Oh, let's go, darling, oh, ain't we some side? In your mama's jeans, you're thinking you just might. My daddy's Jack and I won't put up a fight. And your mama's jeans, you know they fit just right. And your mama's jeans, you know they fit just right. And your mama's jeans, you know they fit just right. Thank you. All right, thank you very much. Sounds like a cool Jack White. I like Jack White very much. That guy's really one of the artists that was like the root for my music tree. I was able to branch out into like blues and rock and even like some hip hop based on like that guy very much. So that has me in a special place. Okay, this next one is a song that I wrote. I think in September. This is definitely a pandemic song. I had a bunch of time to write it because all of my classes at the elementary school, they were all on Zoom, so no commute. I was able to just sit back and dedicate some time to writing. I actually wrote this a couple of days before Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. Kind of felt like something was going to happen, but I definitely didn't think that was what was going to happen. So give me a second to retune. All right, so I call this one The Smell of Sin. Hope you enjoy. Those idols where your Bible's been. Wonder if I smell your sin. Go back to the hole that you came in. Do you care any about you and your kin? And I would ask you why you're not frightened at the sight of your dead brothers on their backs. Your word weren't worth even less. You start my fire with the shit you say, and I give my life just to take yours away. They'd put a statue of me in this town, and I pray to any god that strikes you down. Showing your two-faced point of view, show this country ain't of you. You saw no tears for her that day, so sure no grass will grow o'er your grave. When you bow in church you best pray to God he don't exist, or else on that judgment day you'll find Jesus Christ left you behind. Watch your house burn as you die of thirst, and I'd kill your love if you didn't kill her first. That night she wore the prettiest of gowns, and I pray to any god that strikes you down. One thing I'll let you know, heard it many a time I'm told, but I'll say it again just before you go. Just know that money and power is all that you'll ever hold. But I know that no matter what I do, this song's never gonna get through to you. Not as long as you stand there pointing that gun. But I pray it gets through to your daughters and sons. Thank you. That's all from me for now. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. I'm glad we were able to finally get you on the schedule. All right. Our main speaker today is Kenny Biddle. He is a science enthusiast who investigates claims of paranormal experiences, the equipment, including video that people use to search for strange things, and the evidence presented for ghosts, UFOs, and cryptids. He promotes science, critical thinking, and skepticism through his blog, I Am Kenny Biddle, and YouTube channel. He hosts a live Q&A podcast, The Skeptical Help Bar, which promotes open discussion between people of different beliefs. And he writes a closer look blog on skepticalinquirer.com. So please welcome to the screen, Kenny Biddle.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
All right, let me thanks for that introduction. That was awesome. All right, so let me share my screen here and we can just jump right into it. Make sure I'm doing this right. You guys see that okay?
Yes.
Yes, good. All right. So we'll jump right into it. Let me see, make sure that I'm doing this right. All right, so this is just a little bit about me. In addition to the awesome intro that I just got, I used to be a ghost hunter, and then I discovered a Skeptical Inquirer. So for many years, I was actually ghost hunting. I was on a ghost hunting team. I went out, I did the stuff that you might see on the television shows, and then I realized I was doing a lot wrong, especially when I discovered Skeptical Inquirer. My background is I was an emergency medical technician for several years. I got a degree in auto mechanics, and then I transferred over to building helicopters for a while, and I'm currently an X-ray technician. So basically my entire career is getting a problem and trying to figure out what caused it and then fixing it. So it translates pretty good into solving mysteries. I've been a blogger since 2012. I speak at both science and skeptical conferences and events, and I also do paranormal events. I maintain a really good relationship with both sides, and I'm actually allowed to set up booths at paranormal events, which is kind of rare. I'm also a columnist for Skeptical Inquirer. I host my podcast, and I recently was elected a research fellow for the Committee for Skeptical Inquirer, which is one of my life goals. So I'm really that's awesome for me. All right, so this is basically a poster that I use to demonstrate some of the strategies that I use for solving mysteries. And feel free to take a picture or a screen cap for you if you want to. We're going to be talking about a few of these, but not all of them. You can see the little disclaimer at the bottom that this ain't all of them. There's tons of strategies that we use to investigate and solve mysteries. But I'm just going to jump into a few of them right now. So one of the first strategies I use is to determine who they are. And basically that means who's making the claim. Anyone presenting a mystery or presenting evidence like a photograph or a video, they are making a claim. And although most of them are sincere, I really think most of them are very sincere when they make these claims that they've had like either a ghostly experience or they saw a UFO or even Bigfoot or something like that. There's a lot that aren't so sincere, and they have an agenda, and some of them are listed on the screen here, where you want internet fame because if you put a viral video up, millions of people finally know your name. So that's kind of an incentive to get a TV or movie deal. Some people are really into that. They want to be on TV. They want to be famous. Or if they're already on TV, they want to boost their ratings and continue to get ratings so they stay on TV. They might have something to sell. The ghost hunting community is really big for their own kind of ghost hunting gadgets. They love to have their gadgets because it kind of makes them look scientific, even though when you start really delving into it, they're not being scientific, but they love their gadgets. Anything that beeps or lights up, you could probably sell to a ghost hunter. And for hundreds of dollars too. We can get into that later. Increased tourism is also something that would motivate someone to make a claim, because if you're running a bed and breakfast and times are slow right now, and if you want to boost your attendance, you might say, oh, well, we got a ghost. Someone took a picture and a strange thing is here, so we're haunted now. You should come check it out. I get that a lot. Speaking engagements. There are paranormal conferences where you can actually go and be a speaker, and sometimes they're paid. And we're going to talk about one example that I helped investigate. Uh, this gentleman, his name is David Roundtree, and he was doing a lot of conferences several years ago. And he promoted himself with this background, these credentials of being a physicist. If you look, I don't know if you can see my pointer, but right over on the left side here, he promoted himself as a physicist. And then he also promoted himself as being a Vietnam veteran. He was a captain in the Air Force, and he was at the fall of Saigon. He was at the Menendez incident. He also claimed to receive the Silver Star and 2 Bronze Stars. And on top of that, he also claimed to be a Native American shaman. Well, during a radio program, I was actually on the radio program with him, and the host was talking about our backgrounds, and I had challenged him, because he said he was a physicist, but he never said where he got his PhD. So we talked about it a little bit, and I asked him continuously where he got it, and he would dodge the question. He wouldn't answer it. And finally, he got angry, and he said, "If you want to know about me, just Google me." So for someone like me, I have self-diagnosed OCD when it comes to research. I Googled the hell out of him. And I partnered up with a friend of mine, Melanie, who was a retired Army and paralegal. And we not only Googled him, but we got documents through the government and found out that one, he wasn't a physicist. He completely fabricated that credential. Two, he did serve in the Air Force, but he served for less than 6 months. We actually got a full copy of his DD-214, and it showed that he enlisted in January of 72, and he was out by June of 72. He never received the Silver Star. He never received any of the medals. You can see in the middle picture, he's got a bunch of badges and medals on his jacket there. None of them he actually earned. He was never in Vietnam, and all of his credentials were pretty much false. So he was traveling the country making money. He was actually getting paid for speaking engagements. He got a television deal with a short-lived TV show, but he got all of these benefits based on false credentials. So knowing who the person is behind the claims is extremely important. That's like my number one strategy. As soon as I get a claim, I do a background check on people, and that's just standard. So, all right, I'm going to move on. Another strategy that I use, and I apologize if I'm moving fast, but I have a few slides and I'm trying to fit everything in. So I'll definitely take questions afterwards. Another strategy that I use is visiting the location. I think that's the number 2 most important thing that you can do when someone brings you a claim. And in this example, there was a gentleman named Tim Scullion who had published a book about breakthrough ghost photography. And apparently this book was supposed to be filled with all of these like unexplainable photos of ghosts that he got, mostly in colonial Williamsburg. So he popped up on my social media feed as being a speaker at a conference that I was going to attend. I had not heard of him before, so I began looking him up. I actually ordered the book so I paged through it. And while I was waiting for that, I got onto his blog, and his blog showcased many of the pictures that he has and his travels throughout the country. And one of them really stuck out to me, and this is Gettysburg, because Gettysburg, Pennsylvania is only about 2 hours ride from me. I've been there dozens of times. I know the area really well. And if you see these 2 pictures here that he had posted, he posted the caption that he was in the area of Little Round Top, which is on top of a little hill. If you've ever been to Gettysburg, it's just a little hill that you can go on top of, and you can overlook like Devil's Den and the Triangular Field and many other battlefields. So he claimed that he was following a white figure. If you look down along here in this quote that's highlighted, he was following this white figure near the trees. He was taking pictures, and then the second picture he took of it, it turned navy blue, which to him meant it was a Union soldier. And he also described that as he jumped from one boulder to another to get a better photo of the figure, that it disappeared into the trees. So when I'm looking at these pictures, because I'm familiar with the place, I still went out there. I still went out there to check it out because I knew the area, and I figured, let me see what I can find. And what I found was quite comical to me, because the actual ghost is a statue. It's a full-fledged, out in the open statue. Let me get over here. Let me change my laser pointer because laser pointers are just cool. So this is his original photo, and you can compare to the photo that my wife took for me. Actually, this is me and my friend who is a history professor, uh, Andy, who lived in Gettysburg at the time, and we're in front of the monument. So you can see that the tassel from the head wrap matches. You can see that this pouch over here matches. You can see that the tip of the rifle right here matches exactly. The hand, which hand of the statue, which is pouring gunpowder into the rifle, blurs into the background, and that's because he was using what's called a full spectrum camera. It takes a filter out so you get more infrared light. But this is exactly it, and there's no mistake in it. You can see this statue from the entire area. There's no mistaking that it was a statue. So even if he claimed to jump from boulder to boulder, you would just get a better view of the statue. That's it. It didn't move. So I actually wrote an article about this and brought it to his attention. And since then, this whole blog post has disappeared. So surprise. So another, oh, wait, let me go back. Another strategy that I use, this is a very tedious one. This is reading the comments. And reading the comments can be long, it could time consuming, and it could be boring as hell. But sometimes you get really good nuggets of information. And in this case, I was investigating the conspiracy theory about Elvis Presley appearing in the movie Home Alone. Now, if you haven't heard about this, I hadn't heard about it before either. My editor, Ben Rafford, does a podcast called Squaring the Strange. If you haven't heard of it, I suggest you look it up because it's really good. So him and his co-host, Celestia Ward, were talking about movie myths and conspiracy theories. And this one came up. And during the show, they actually challenged me to see if I could figure it out. So the conspiracy basically says in this scene, which is right after the family figures out that they left their kid at home, they're in the airport. The mom is arguing with the person behind the desk to get a flight home. This is right before John Candy over here makes his entrance. But this gentleman back here, people claim is Elvis Presley. Now, keep in mind, Elvis Presley died in 1977. This is 13 years before Home Alone was filmed in 1990. So there's a big gap there. But people swore that this was Elvis Presley, that he snuck onto the set. So the first thing I did, because I wasn't really aware of this conspiracy theory, I looked it up on YouTube because that's the best place to find conspiracy theories. You just go right to the source. As I'm listening to the video, I start scrolling through the comments, and I found a comment that said, "Yes, guys, sorry, this is my deceased husband, Gary Grott." So I had a name, and it was curious. It was a good lead. So I started looking at it. And the next strategy that I used for this is to look on social media, because almost everybody is on social media somehow. And what's the good thing about social media is that you're not private. For a good thing for me, because I'm an investigator, most people are not as private as they think they are. So I was able to find not only Gary Grott and look at this picture and say, oh, okay, maybe he kind of looks like the guy, but older. Maybe, I don't know. His profile was open. It was public, so I could look through the pictures. And what I found was this photo. And this photo came up, and this was perfect because it actually is almost the same angle as the one in the movie, and I could put it side by side. And for me, that pretty much sealed it. I mean, this guy's got the same nose. He's got the same hairline with the same part. Definitely a little older, little more age on him. But this was the guy. But I wasn't sure. I wanted confirmation. So I actually looked through the comments on his social media page. And sadly, I found out that he had passed away earlier that year. so I couldn't reach out to him. But I did find a comment from his son. So his son was still around. He was on social media, so I reached out to him, and I actually talked to him on the phone. We had a great conversation, and after he obtained permission from his mother to make sure this was okay, they actually explained the story to me, which was great. And in a nutshell, Gary Grott was walking down the street in his town one day. A limousine pulled up, and out walks Christopher Columbus, the guy that made Home Alone, saw him and said, "You know what? You have this look that it would be perfect for a background character." And they met, they became friends. He was actually in a whole bunch of movies of Christopher Columbus, but this was the only film that he actually made the cut. Most of his stuff was cut out. So as evidence, Gary's son Roman sent me a picture to help solidify that this was truly his father. And that evidence was this picture. This is actually a poster that has been on the wall in his family home since 1990. This was a present from the studio for his participation in the movie. And if you look down at the bottom here, let me see up. This is his signature right here. And one of the main telltale signs about this is that this is not just a photoshopped image that they took like a screenshot from the film. This is actually called a continuity photo. And in the film industry, if you're an extra or anybody, what they do is use a Polaroid camera, and they tell you to look directly into the lens, no expression, and they use a flash to take a picture of you in case you have to come back later in the day or the next day. They know exactly what you look like and can make sure you look exactly the same for continuity in the film. So this was definitely him, and reading the comments actually helped solve this case. So I love that just a little comment like that led to a mystery being solved. So I'm going to go on to another example here. Primary sources. Primary sources are absolutely one of the most important things you have to do. Too many times in my line of work, I get stories second, third, fourth hand, and they're not very reliable. So I always try to go to the primary source. I'm always asking, where did you hear that? Where did you get that information? Let me go follow the trail. So primary sources are basically what it says on the screen: immediate firsthand accounts of a topic from people who have had direct connection with it, meaning either like the experience or the person or whatever. And I also include official documents, newspapers, articles, books, all primary sources where information would be pulled from. And one of the examples where this came in handy, I did a review of a TV show called Ghost Loop. So this is actually the banner from my article. This is one of the TV shows. This is a group of ghost hunters, and it was a very short-lived film or short-lived TV show. And what happened in this episode, the very first episode, is that they went to this house in Houston, Texas, where I think you guys are all based in, right? Yes. Okay. So this is good and local for you guys. You can actually go check it out. Get me some pictures. So they went to this house, and the address is up there, 1509. It's not a secret because they actually displayed it on the television show. So this is very important to remember. 1509 Bonner Street is very important to remember because they went to this house, and the woman that owned it claimed that there was all kinds of weird stuff going on. And then there was this violent shadow figure that would come in the living room and then rush through the house to the bedroom. And so the team started looking into it and doing research, and they got in contact with a detective. Let me move this, let me move the stuff out of the way so I can see my information here. So they got into contact with Detective Daryl DeFee, who is pictured on the bottom here. He is right there, and they're talking to him. And the detective told a story about how there was a murder in the house. And basically, in 1921, the house was owned by a woman named Emma Mia. And on December 23rd of that same year, a gentleman named Wiley Thomas came to the house, kind of drunk, and he was apparently the on-again, off-again boyfriend of Emma. So he wanted to come in and stay the night because he was drunk, and, you know, drunk guys are like frisky. So he wanted to stay. She said, no, get out, and kicked him out. He came back a little bit later and decided to barge in, and he went straight back to the bedroom, laid down. He actually took out a gun and laid it on the bed. So when he did that, Emma, freaked out, and there was a scuffle. She got control of the gun and shot him in the head, pretty much execution style. But I guess it wasn't a big deal because they didn't call the cops right away. They waited till the next morning and then called the police. So, I mean, I guess it was like, oh, you know what? That problem's taken care of. Let me just, let me get a good night's rest, and then we will deal with this in the morning. So they called the cops. She was arrested, but eventually let go. And they go through all of this on the TV show, all this research, and claiming that, definitely happened here. This guy was killed in the back bedroom of this house, and that's causing the activity. So I started doing some research because I was interested, and I was asked to do a review on this show. So the first thing I did was look up the incident, because it's a murder. It would appear in the papers. So not only did I find newspaper articles, but I also found the death certificate. And I started looking at it because I'm looking at the death certificate here, and this is giving the address as 2012 Lamar, which is a different address. And this is where his body was found. The witness that identified the body was Wiley's sister, Pearl, and she lived at 2305 Preston. So I started thinking, like, what's going on here? Why is this listed as a different address? So I went on to the resident directories that I found from 1919 all the way to 1930. And over here, this is where you can see that our murder victim, our guy, Wiley, he lived with his sister at 2305 Preston. Our girl, Emma, she actually lived at 2012 Lamar. She did not live at the house that was featured in the show. This actually occurred, this murder, this thing happened 4 miles away. It's still in Houston, Texas, but it happened 4 miles away. So going to primary sources showed me that this TV show totally stole a murder incident and then used that story for their own TV show at a different house. So it was completely fabricated on their part. So moving on, attention to details. I'm almost done too. I'm actually getting through this pretty quick. So attention to details is definitely another strategy that you should use. And this is more, I didn't put examples with this because there were just so many details we could talk about. But when you look at pictures and videos, make sure you look at not just what the person is showing you, look at all around. Because you've heard about magicians and misdirection. I mean, that's their bread and butter, making you look, hey, check this out, while this hand is behind doing some kind of trick. This is unintentional with people that show you evidence. Sometimes they show you pictures, sometimes they show you video, or they play an audio clip for you. They want to take you to a room, and they point out specifically what they want you to see. And it's unintentional. I mean, because they're excited, like, this is where it happened. This is what happened. And they're excited about it. But you want to take a step back and look at everything else. You want to look at what furniture is in the room, who was there, what they were wearing. Were they carrying any equipment? If they had equipment, what settings were used? What kind of equipment? All of this stuff is really important. Primary sources, when we talked about the house, and the documents saying that it was the wrong house, you want to check out and make sure you have the right address. You want to check out and make sure that they actually own the house at the time. All of these little details may seem insignificant, but I literally have a notebook for every case that I work on, and it's filled with notes and notes, pages of notes, where I write down every single detail that I see, and then I go back and look at it again to see if I missed something. And this is how I solve mysteries. One more slide to go. This is awesome. So Google it. I mean, this goes back to the first example that I gave you, the gentleman Roundtree that told me to Google it. And then ultimately that was his downfall, because he doesn't do lectures anymore. He doesn't do anything anymore. But these are all resources that you can use. You can use Google for not only searching for information, but you can compare images. If someone gives you an image and you're not sure where it's at, You can do a Google image search, which is excellent because it comes up sometimes with the exact place you're looking for. Google Maps allows you to look at the area around a location. So you can see if somebody keeps claiming that they hear children's noises, children playing or laughing in the background, and they're not sure where it's coming from. You can see if that building is next to a neighborhood, with residents that are going to have kids outside playing. YouTube is excellent for looking up conspiracy theories and reading lots of comments. Copyscape is a place that you can check for plagiarism. And I've come across that a lot. There's actually a guy that runs a ghost hunting show called Ghost Adventures. His name is Zach Baggins, and he just put out a Ghost Hunting for Dummies book last December. And I went through that and found out, I actually realized that he plagiarized most of the material in that book. And I found that because the photography section copied the entire chapter of Joe Nichols' book. I forget his photography book. Oh my God, he's going to get pissed off at me because I forget. Camera Clues. That's what it is. The guy that wrote the book actually lifted an entire chapter from Joe Nichols, who is one of the senior research fellows at Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, lifted an entire chapter from his book from 20 years ago and put it in his book. Didn't even change the wording, just ripped it off completely. And so I was able to find a lot of stuff through Copyscape and realized that probably about 90% of the book was plagiarized from different sources. Yeah, big deal. Big deal because I had actually contacted the publisher and made a really big stink, and they had actually stopped printing and reprinted a whole bunch of stuff. So I loved it that I caused them so much trouble. Because when you're an asshole like that, I mean, you deserve to get caught. So Netter Online is about real estate information. You can actually track owners of different buildings, property values, and you get personal information about the owners, which is really good when you're tracking down, who might have owned that house beforehand. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, eBay, LinkedIn. These are all social media accounts. Most people have at least one of them, and you can get information from them. I mean, like I said before, not everyone is private. You are not as private as you think you are. So you can find people, and being an investigative person like I am, I'm basically a stalker. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, you're a stalker because you're checking into people. You're doing background searches. You're doing histories, ancestry.com. You're looking into their family. You're a stalker. That's it. I get paid to stalk people, which is awesome. It's a great benefit. And then the Wayback Machine. That's one of the last things I want to just mention, because every time you see something on a website, especially if it's a personal or business website, and they're making specific claims, especially if you're looking into like alternative medicine claims, or psychics that claim they can do this or cure cancer or something like that. You not only want to screenshot that website, but you use Wayback Machine to archive that website. And what that does is actually archive the website exactly how it is at that date. So if they actually go in the next day and edit it, you have a full copy that you can link to in Wayback Machine to show, hey, this is what it actually said. And then they changed it after I made a big stink. So with that, that's pretty much it for me. This is contact information if you want. I think it was mentioned in the beginning, I do a Skeptical Help Bar podcast every Friday night at 9:00 Eastern time. And I also do another podcast Saturday night where I co-host with two other guys, Tim Vickers and Dave Schumacher, called Three Tortured Souls. And we actually take one paranormal topic and we dive into it, like from a scientific and skeptical point of view. We discuss it and we offer ways people can improve how they do like methods or take pictures or something like that. So, and that's about it for me. So thank you guys. I thank you for having me, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And again, if you have follow-up questions, feel free to contact me.
Right. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. That was a fantastic talk, and not only good advice for paranormal, but kind of a lot of our day-to-day lives, I think, too. So
Yeah.
awesome. We are going to do Q&A, but before we do that, we are going to do breakout sessions, go to discussion groups. This gives people kind of a chance to talk to other people and just come up with questions for you.
Okay.
So for those who aren't familiar, Abhishek's going to send an invite to do the breakout rooms. You can hit join, or you can hit not now, and you can always join later or not. Go get a cup of coffee, take a break. But like I said, this is a great chance for everyone to come up with some questions, especially for those who are joining us on Facebook Live. They can put the questions in the chat, and then we can get them over here to Zoom for you, Kenny. And with that, we'll take about 7 minutes for a discussion group.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And like I said, you can join. And when you do join, everyone's unmuted. So be prepared for loud noises.
And we're out, and we should
All right. Welcome back. All right. Hopefully everyone had some great discussions. Hopefully got a few questions. We do have a couple questions over on Facebook. So I'm going to go ahead and ask those. Kathy on Facebook asks that first guy, the one who was the liar, the one who was
Roundtree, yes.
exaggerating. Yeah. Was he ever brought up on charges, or was there any consequences other than no longer being involved, I guess?
So he was not brought up on charges. We did actually file with the state of New Jersey. We sent all the information that we had because it's very long-winded, everything that we did. So I won't get into too much here. But basically, yes, he had committed stolen valor, and we were trying to demonstrate that with all the evidence. And there was also other laws about with the military, and don't quote me on this because I'm trying to remember exactly what we did, but you weren't allowed to make money off of certain things that you did in the military, and he was doing that. So we actually had it in print. So we had to actually send a packet that was probably about 4 inches thick of all the documentation that we had, and we sent it to the state of New Jersey. They said that there was so much information that it was going federal. So they had sent it to the federal court, and that's the last we heard of it. So we haven't heard any updates yet. I don't know if they're going to do anything. This guy has since moved to Florida and has completely cut off from the whole community that he used to be involved in. So he doesn't do lectures anymore. He doesn't do presentations, doesn't travel, doesn't do TV, because if you do a search for his name, the first thing that comes up is stolen valor. So his reputation is kind of shot, and it's not anyone's fault but his own, because you don't do that, man. I mean, he displayed medals on his wall, and for months or years he said, I earned all these, and he didn't. We had the records. I actually carry around the DD 214 because I've been asked so many times, and I have a list of all the medals that he had. Two. He got one for joining and one for completing basic training. That's it. So to actually claim that you got the silver star, I'm not going to go into all the bad words I want to say about this gentleman, but you don't do that. I mean, he's stealing from people that died for doing what he claims he did. So he's just an asshole. So that's it. So the consequences are that he pretty much ruined his own life when he got exposed. So he doesn't do anything anymore.
Okay, awesome. Next question from Lise on Facebook. I'd like to know some quick ways to counter conspiracy theorists. Do you have any tips for that?
Good luck. I mean, honestly, it's very hard sometimes because conspiracy theorists, when they're invested in that theory, it's very hard to convince them otherwise. I find most times there is a issue of the moving the goalposts fallacy, where as soon as you offer information to counter one of their claims, then it's, well, that's fine, but what about this? And then they go on to the next part of the conspiracy theory. I usually try to just put out as much information as I can, address the major points, and make sure I have my references, make sure I can cite where I'm getting my information from, and then put it out there for the public. That's one time, once you put it out there for the public, that's one time I suggest you don't read the comments, because it'll get really nasty. But if you're going one-on-one with a conspiracy theorist, it's very, very difficult. And I don't think there are any tips that are going to help you deal with it, because it's just full-on believer. And no matter what you say, it doesn't make a difference. It won't make a difference. They are committed. They are convinced. And it's very hard. Although I will say that there are times when it does change. A friend of mine, Mick West, it was a gentleman, he wrote Escaping the Rabbit Hole, a great book about conspiracy theories and stories from people that were in the conspiracy theory rabbit hole that climbed out. and he gets their stories. And he not only uses his own examples, chapter by chapter, but he uses the stories from these people that came out of that rabbit hole. So that's a great book. If you haven't gotten it, if you haven't read it, it's Escaping the Rabbit Hole from Mick West. Really good book that deals with it. He also does a podcast called Tales from the Rabbit Hole, which has guests on that were down conspiracy theory holes, and they explain how they got out.
Awesome. All right. Gonna ask a couple more questions. What is your opinion on UFOs? And do you, I just moved it. MUFON, is that a critical investigative organization? Do you consider that to be a critical investigative organization?
So UFOs, I mean, they're cool stories, but most of the pictures, all of the pictures that I've looked at don't show anything that would be considered alien. And we have to make that distinction. I know you've probably heard this disclaimer plenty of times before, but unidentified flying object does not mean UFO as an alien. It doesn't mean aliens are coming and visiting us and then passing by, locking their doors, because who would want to stop here? It's just, it means you can't identify something in the sky. That's it. As for MUFON, I do consultant work for them. So I know a bunch of their field investigators along the East Coast who send me pictures and video to get my opinion on them. And most of the time it's leaves. It could be leaves because people take a picture in the fall and a leaf floats by and they accidentally catch it. It's been street lights. It's been airplanes. It's been a lot of stuff. As far as MUFON being a critical thinking organization, I think they try. I'm not really involved with them too much, so I can't comment in depthly about it because I don't want to, overstep myself. But from my interaction, they are open to contacting experts and getting good opinions. So that's my interaction with them, because most of the time it's just they send me the pictures, they send me the video, and say, "What is this?" I have also done training for them. I've done some classes for them where I teach them to go through photographs and video and what to look for, little details to look for. So I think some of them are trying. I can't speak for the whole thing. And again, I don't have much interaction with them, but the little bit that I do, they try. They try. I'm not going to say they're definitely a critical thinking organization, but they do try.
All right. We're running close on time, but there's a couple more really good questions that I do actually wanted to ask you. You mentioned going to schools to educate kids. Are you planning on doing more of that? Probably not until after.
Right now, that's not going to happen, but that's my goal. And I was talking a little bit about it in the private chat rooms that we were in. But I'm trying to develop like a class, maybe a 1 or 2 day class where I can actually go into schools and get kids interested, because we're going to talk about ghosts and Bigfoot and UFOs, but that's more the hook. Get them in there with stories like presentations that I do, using the stories that I've investigated, and then teaching them critical thinking. One of the books that I offered in the private room was this book that I picked up, Critical Thinking Detective, and it's by, where is it? There it is, Michael Baker. It's a very simple book. It's a kid's book. It's for grades 3 to 12, and it's very simple mysteries that are in here that it teaches you how to go through looking for certain details, critically looking at stories that people give you. And that's just a start. So I'm going to try and develop something where I can do that with kids and just go in. Because I did have an opportunity to do it. I explained it again in the other rooms, that I went into a classroom in Vegas. There was a grade school that we were able to go to during SciCon and talk to the kids. And we talked about all kinds of things, Ouija boards and ghosts and Bigfoot. And they had lots of questions that they didn't understand. They've heard the beliefs, but they didn't understand how to think about them, how to ask the right questions. So we actually ran out of time, because I did 2 classes in one day, which was great. But the kids actually wanted more. I could have stayed there easily for the whole week and just went through questions and teach them how to, pick apart stories and look at the little details, the final details, and say, okay, maybe that's not right. So that's the plan. I'm trying to develop it. Maybe once we can get back to some kind of normal life, this will be a reality.
Awesome. And then last question from Sergio. What is the most convincing piece of evidence that you've encountered?
Convincing as in, I'm guessing that might be like leaning towards convincing that something is paranormal or something.
Like,
I'm not.
I was gonna say, I'll let Sergio go ahead.
Sure. Hi. Yeah. So in your paranormal investigations, what have you found that you've been, I guess, unable to explain, or just one of those things you remember is like, maybe that one, maybe that piece of evidence?
Well, there's a lot of times where it's you can't solve the case, you can't solve the mystery, and that's not because I've never thought, maybe that's really is a ghost, because that is kind of invoking a supernatural conclusion without evidence to back it up. But there's been plenty of times when I can't solve a little mystery, and that's from lack of information. And it usually comes from, like if we're in a abandoned asylum where it's like a 200-foot hallway, and at the end of the hallway, you see a shadow go by. And typically ghost hunters will be like, oh, I saw a shadow figure. Where I'm like, okay, we saw a shadow. I don't know what that is. Let's go down and take a look. By the time you get down there's no information to help you understand what's going on, unless you can wait there for maybe an hour, and maybe like a car that's miles away, came up a hill and their lights came in and caused a shadow. Maybe that's it. But there are times like that where you just don't have enough information. So there's never been like evidence, and I put that in quotes because the process that we go through, we collect data and we confirm it before it becomes evidence. So the evidence presented by ghost hunters is usually very circumstantial. It's very subjective. So I don't take it at face value. So I'm not really, if I get it and I'm like, oh, you know what, we can't reproduce it, I'm not going to say it's a ghost yet, because I don't know. I don't know what it is. And I'm perfectly fine with my conclusion being, I don't know until I get more information. So I hope that answered your question. Awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for being here today.
You're welcome. You're absolutely welcome. And if anyone has any further questions afterwards, feel free to hit me up on Facebook, because I have nothing to do this weekend. So I'm stuck in a hotel room. Literally, I'm quarantined in a hotel room. I have nothing to do. So feel free to shoot me a message.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. All right. Before we have one final song from John, we are going to post the link to donate and sign up for our weekly newsletter in the chat window. We're no longer meeting in a physical space, but we are still paying our musicians and still have some fixed expenses. So if you like what we're doing and you're able to, please consider donating. And with that, we'll have one final song from John.
All right, thank you very much. So before I get started, I'm going to post my own link. There we go. So that's for my, that's a YouTube link to one of the songs that I recorded in April, like very beginning of the quarantine. And also an email if you had questions or just wanted to keep updated on whatever it is I end up doing in the future, then it's there. Okay, so I'm going to get to my last song. It's called The Clenched Fist of Truth. That's a phrase that's commonly used by the NRA, the National Rifle Association. Clenched Fist of Truth, to hold it in a clenched fist. You can make of that whatever you want to. It all started with one never, and it ended with forever. We were born in stormy weather, in a raincoat with 4 sleeves. Though we used to band together out of some familiar hatred, these days our working class marriage is one of necessity. 'Cause I can't afford to leave him, and he feels the same about me. But I can't help shake the feeling that's not how it's supposed to be. I'm a truck driver by morning, try to be a mother sometimes. His life couldn't be more boring since he closed that local mine. So he screams of dreams he's heard of, songs of irony off his tongue. Guess that time progressive black lung gave him cancer of the mind. He don't make it out that often, he got all a man could need. With this type of reading Bible, he ain't never learned to read. Oh, his friends, they tend to be fleeting, and they always smell of cretin, except for Margaret at the guillotine. Put that noose around her neck. They come out their way to see us. Ain't much they can do to please us, except for hear him speak of Jesus. Pump the Philistines full of lead, and he strikes his plastic matchbox while I hold my wooden sign. Cries for justice every Sunday, though he's never given me mine. My friends, they ask me often what it is I do to stop it. Ain't much till they shut his coffin, put him 6 feet down to earth, where he thinks he is already. When he opens my eyes, let me, only then me and our baby will be paid what we are worth. Until then I'll eat the manna that the government provide. Until then I'll eat the manna. Lord knows this ain't no free ride. As I exit stage, they're smiling. In that ballet we were riding, 'cause he sat for 10 years fighting down my patience with that sail. He danced with Venus on a half shell, 'cause I said I didn't feel well. But I spent the whole night dancing with the next great Prince of Wales. As I leave, I push his princess to the center of the stage. Welcome tragedy or stalemate, time be damned, he won't be changed. He and I came home that evening with that old familiar feeling, when we used lines from the ceiling that we wrote when we were free. With the power that I'd found lately, said you would and hit a lady, and with his right hand he struck me. I guess that's equality. You're a warrior, so he told me, perhaps in more ways than one. And if I don't get what I ask for, well, at least I've had some fun. Can't believe what I've discovered. Can't believe that you're my lover. As the hands you used to cover your eyes were your unsaving grace. What he did to keep his secret made him trip on his own doorstep. As he scarred his hands in his own eyes, at least he saved some face. Tried to loan him my last t-shirt, tried to help him from the floor. He insists on self-reliance, pound his drink and beg for more. All that's left of our house these days is a tombstone built for two, etched in sweet permissive Mandarin, death by two clenched fists of truth. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm glad we're... All right. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Special thank you to Kenny and John. Special shout out to those from North San Diego. We're glad y'all were able to join us today. And don't forget to join us tonight back here on Zoom for another coronavirus conversation at 8 p.m. with Drs. Richard Andrews and Will Judy. And don't forget to keep an eye out for our future emails, Facebook posts, meetup, however you keep in contact with us. And we'll see you next week. Stay safe out there.